bass drum.
And you're watching
Around the Piano
with Tim Paul
at 216 Creator Studios.
Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe.
Hey, everybody. Welcome back to another Around the Piano podcast show today. We've always got very special guests, but we've got a very special guest today that we're going to introduce in just a minute. But first, I want to see how Drew's been doing back there. Drew, how you doing, buddy?
Hey, good, Tim. Hey, listen, love the new background.
Yeah,
and the
that's
new
kind of
logo.
cool, right?
Yeah, that's pretty
I
hot.
can reach my other hand back here and kind of play.
Yeah, you careful now. You tear down those screens. It's going to look like they'll see the garbage dump that we got back there.
That's right.
So
that's what we got Nick for. He'll clean it up, right?
Nick,
Nick's back here too.
Nick's actually a part owner here, so I'm not going to force him to do anything.
No.
So hey, listen, guys, two things. First of all, let's talk about piano trends.
Let's do that.
You need a piano. You might need two. I know that if you don't need a piano and you get to, you can use Demolition Derby. You can do Vetting of the Stress.
You can have dueling pianos in your own home.
You could dual the pianos. Yes. If you wanted to, you could also get lessons with that piano at Piano Trends. Not only do they do virtual, but you can go online, see what they have in stock. And if you like that, a certain piano they have, and you want to customize it, reach out to us. You want a steampunk piano? We can make that happen for you. You want a Gucci piano? We can have that done for you as
whatever it takes. Yeah.
Absolutely. We have all kinds of new things going on over here. And at Piano Trends, we have the holiday mashup happening that'll be aired on the 21st. Giving out the good spirits from lifting spirits through music around the piano and Let's Talk Local here from 216 Creator Studios. We are crushing it. We're just really pushing out. We got 3 new shows coming out, Tim, and we're having such a blast doing it, man.
It's good to be busy, right?
It is. It is. And hey, listen, if you like what you see here, don't forget to go to that old Google box, go to YouTube, 216 Creator Studios, click on that live tab. Make sure you like, share, subscribe, and ding that bell for future notifications. We do appreciate the support.
Yeah, especially dinging that bell.
Yeah, digging the bell.
Dinging the bell.
That's all I play as an instrument is digging the bell.
Well, that's triangle. True. And the triangle.
Maybe the cowbell. I don't know. That's where I'm at.
Not at the same time.
This gentleman that you have on today was just playing a song, and I was like, I told him in the back of the green room, I'm like, hey, Paul, that sounds fantastic. Why doesn't it sound like that when I play the guitar? It sounds like 2 cats fighting in a pillowcase. I don't know why. Very, very, very talented man. Let's without further ado, let's bring him aboard, shall we?
Let's do that. We'd like to welcome. Hey, Paul, are you coming in here? Let's see you here, buddy. There you go. Paul Bielatowicz. Did I pronounce your name correctly this time?
You did. Perfect.
Awesome.
Thank you so much.
I'm so happy. I win.
I did a show a couple of years ago, and the guy introducing me on stage was pacing around backstage saying, Paul Bielatowicz, Paul Bielatowicz, Paul Bielatowicz, 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 trying to pronounce my surname for about 15 minutes. And he walked out onto the stage and said, ladies and gentlemen, let me introduce to you Peter Bielatowicz. He nailed my first name, my surname, and called me Peter.
Well, that happens. With me, it's real easy because my first name's Tim, my last name's Paul, like your first name. So it's hard to mess that up. Although once in a while I get to pay you all, but that's a different story for a different time. But hey, welcome to being on the show. I know we have a mutual friend in Tim Gingrau who was with us a month or so ago, and the reason he was in town was he was working with you down in Chicago at the Anatheum Theater. I probably blew that pronunciation, but let's start with telling us why you were in Chicago at that theater, because it was a project you were working on with Tim at that time.
That's right, yeah. I wrote a soundtrack for the 1922 vampire movie Nosferatu, and we did a tour of it, a US tour of it, and Tim produced the 2 Chicago shows we did at the Athenaeum Theatre, and it was a lot of fun.
Yeah, I know. We were hoping to get down there ourselves that night, and unfortunately, we had work that we had to do, so we weren't able to get there. But I heard that it went great. It was a wonderful production, and you guys have a lot of talent, and you put them together and made them to good use. So that was awesome. Now, I also understand that you have worked with some of the most famous bands in rock history. I know you've played with Yes and Todd Rundgren and others. Tell us a little bit about your background. Let people know what you are and what you're about.
Yeah, so well, I've primarily my introduction to touring was with Carl Palmer from Emerson, Lake and Palmer, and it's through him that I've toured with these other people. Yeah, I was pretty fresh out of college. And playing in wedding bands and function bands when all of a sudden I heard that Carl Palmer might be looking for a guitarist, and wanting a guitarist to play all of the Keith Emerson keyboard parts.
Right.
So, I mean, we'll probably get into this, but I describe myself as a classical pianist trapped inside the body of an electric guitarist. And so when I heard of this gig come up, I just thought, perfect, playing keyboard parts. And I sent him a CD of me playing some piano tunes and some keyboard tunes, and he liked the CD. And that was 20 years ago, and I've been touring with him ever since. So it's through him really that I've got to play with a lot of these prog giants.
Sure. Well, in the music industry is one of connection and networking, and I think that's how everybody in the industry works. One person, you get to know another person, and it kind of moves on. And if you do good by these artists, they're going to pass your name along. They're going to recommend you, and it's kind of a tight knit community out there. We've discovered. And I think
of course,
yeah, the same thing.
Yeah, for sure. I always say, whenever somebody will ask me advice, somebody wanting to get into the industry, it's all about being a nice person. It's all about personality. It's all about connections. I've seen several people get fired from tours. Never has it been because of their ability. It's always been because of their attitude, their personality. So yeah. Connections and just being a nice person, easy to work with. That's 95% of the game.
Exactly. And in my mind, in the music industry, making music is such a joy and a privilege. Let alone if you've got the talent to do it on that level. But if you're at that level and you've got that kind of talent, why wouldn't you want to get along with the people you're working with? It just makes sense. Yeah. Cause you're going to enjoy it a lot more that way. Now I know you're in Boston. That's where you're living now, in Boston. Am I correct?
Yes. South coast, just south of Boston, on the south coast. Yeah.
But I detect a bit of a British accent.
That's right. This is not a Boston accent. You're right. Yeah. So from old England to New England. So I come from close to Manchester in the UK. That's where I grew up.
Okay.
And I lived all over the UK, but in 2011, I was on tour with Carl Palmer over in the US, and I met a promoter who is now my wife. So she was promoting 2 shows, and now I'm based over here.
That's fantastic. Now, let me ask you this. Now you've been touring with Carl. Do you have any tours set up with Carl this coming year?
Yes, in 2025 we're touring extensively. So we do a show called The Return of Emerson, Lake and Palmer, where we have a similar setup to what you see behind me, actually, the 3 screens, but much, much, much bigger video walls. So on the left screen, we've got Keith Emerson. On the right screen, we've got Greg Lake, and we play along with them. So they managed to do that because they had a multi-camera shoot from the 90s, where they had a camera trained just on Keith and a camera trained just on Greg, and they took those camera angles. We've got the multi-track audio, and we can now play along with them. So, so we're touring this show, which is kind of, it's a little bit like the hologram shows that you see. ABBA were doing the hologram shows, and a few other people were doing the hologram shows. It's a little bit like that, but using video walls instead.
That's awesome. Now I know, unfortunately, you're not going to hit the Chicago area with this particular tour, but
I'm not sure. Maybe. Yeah. There's tour dates coming out all the time. That our agent are working hard on them. So there's a good chance that we'll be around you. Oh,
that'd be fantastic. Well, you be sure you keep us posted on that, because we'll be there then.
I will do. For sure.
Be terrific.
Yeah.
Tell us about some of the other, now through Carl Palmer, you obviously have been able to work with some of these other bands. You got any good backstories, like when you worked with some of these other bands and toured with them?
Well,
putting you on the spot, right?
Yeah. I mean, a huge highlight for me was my first tour of the US, 2006. We had a night off in New York. We were playing BB King's Blues Club, and the night off in New York, it happened to be when Les Paul was doing his residency, and he did a residency every week at a small jazz club called the Iridium on Broadway, and so we went down, and our manager knew his son. We got introduced, and I think there was some sort of misunderstanding, because Les Paul shook my hand and said, "Oh, great! So what are we going to play then?" I'm not here to play, but he wouldn't take no for an answer. So I got up and played a couple of tunes with him, and and back then I didn't, thankfully, really, I didn't really know what a huge influence on the world of electric guitar Les Paul was. I probably would have been a lot more nervous to get up with him if I had known. But I mean, he invented the electric guitar. So and a few years later he passed away. I think he was about 94, 95 when I played with him. Just an amazing guy, sharp as a knife, sharpest guy in the room. Just cracking jokes about everyone, making comments about my ripped jeans, and just commanding the room. And his playing was sublime as well. So that was a real highlight. But I've got to play with a lot of my heroes. I grew up, listening to prog music, and
you bet.
Newer prog bands such as Dream Theater, and got to do a small tour with them, opening up for them with a guy called Neal Morse. So, it's been a wild ride, but embracing every time that I get to play with somebody new.
Right, exactly. And that's so awesome that you're able to do that, and just to be in the presence of some of those musicians, because it's music history. You mentioned Les Paul. He fits the mold. I hate when people use the word legend too often, but he definitely he's one of the legends in the business. And you're right, he invented that electric guitar. He's the one who got it going there.
And also multi-track recording. He was the first person who did multi-track recording, and he was doing all of those layering of guitar parts, and he would record himself and then record himself playing over that recording, and just really, really innovative.
Right, and of course there was a group that was well known for that. They did a lot. The Carpenters did a lot of record overs with their vocals. They created all the harmonies in the recording studio. It was all them for the most part.
Sure.
So,
yeah.
It's amazing what somebody like that does, how it affects an entire industry for generations afterwards.
Absolutely.
No question.
Yeah.
If you don't mind, how about if we take a moment here, if you don't mind pulling out one of your guitars and playing a few riffs for us? Would you mind doing that?
Certainly, yeah, absolutely, yeah. Let me angle this down so you can see both my guitar and the clutter on my floor.
There you go.
So, well, I mentioned that I consider myself a classical pianist trapped in the body of an electric guitarist, and a large reason I say that is when I was at college, when I was at music college, I discovered the piano, and I was there to study guitar, but was just discovered we did a module on the impressionist piano composers, so Debussy, Ravel, and I just fell in love with the music for the first time, and so started trying to play a lot of it on guitar. My introduction to trying to play stuff on guitar was seeing pianists just play things that looked impossible to play on guitar,
Sure.
but were easy on piano. Any pianist could do it. So, for example, if you were to play, say, a major pentatonic scale on guitar, it's quite difficult to do it in different octaves. So, you find yourself kind of going around the guitar, and it's just doesn't make a lot of sense. The guitar is not laid out in a way that makes sense. So, and I would see these pianists would just kind of taking those 5 notes and moving them up, and then moving them up, and then moving them down, and it made perfect sense. So I thought, is there a way that I could possibly do that on guitar? So I came across the idea of, instead of playing on different strings, I would play them on the same string, and then I could just transpose that into octaves. So became a lot easier because it's just the same thing repeated. So I based my entire style on that idea of trying to view the guitar in octaves more like a pianist would, and using both hands like a pianist would as well.
It's fascinating. Yeah, you're absolutely right, though. It creates your own style, and
for sure.
Yeah, for sure that way. I love that.
Yeah. So I got into trying to play, as I say, those impressionist pieces, such as. That sort of thing, the Arabesque by Debussy, Clair de Lune, also a lot of Debussy pieces, some Chopin pieces.
Yeah, do a little Clair de Lune for me. I want to hear that. That's fantastic. There's nothing that sounds better on a guitar when you play like that. That's beautiful. But yeah, I see where your classical piano background has played well for you.
Yeah. You get, there's some people hate it. Some people, I get a lot of comments on YouTube like, why don't you just learn to play the piano? Well, you're missing the entire point.
Exactly right.
But it does bring in elements that you can't do on piano. So you can't do the slides on piano. You can't add the vibrato on piano, and
That's right.
I mean, you are limited. You're limited to 6 notes at once, and if you're playing 2 parts at once, you have to, kind of find a way around it. So there, I can't do the full arpeggios for the backing. I've got to just shorten it down to like 3 notes. But yeah, I like that challenge of trying to get the guitar to do something that it's not designed to do.
I I love that. In fact, I'm sitting here amazed because I've seen many great guitars, but I've never seen a great pianist guitarist like that. There's that style. I've never seen anybody actually demonstrate the octave playing that you just did there.
Yeah.
My wife is going to love this.
I don't know that I don't know that other people do it. It's just that I'm, as I say, I'm a frustrated pianist.
Sure.
So, yeah. I mean, there's certain. I don't know if you know the Opus 10 Chopin etudes. I play a lot of those as well. Those things, and it lends itself perfectly to that because he wrote it around that octave idea on the piano.
I'm sure he would have loved to have heard that.
Right.
That's amazing. So now, are you able to incorporate that style of playing into some of the things you do with when you're doing Emerson, Lake and Palmer material?
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, and not only able to, but it's quite essential to, because I'm copying keyboard lines, and there's no other really no other way of doing it. There's some runs that you can't play traditionally, or it'd be incredibly difficult to play traditionally on guitar with a pick and just standard technique. Yeah. So that's and I wasn't playing this style to this degree back 20 years ago when I joined this band.
Right.
So my style has evolved with the band. So I'm sure, had I not have been faced with all of these all of these keyboard parts to play on guitar, I'm sure I wouldn't have developed this style quite to this extent.
Okay, that's fascinating. I'm going to ask you two questions here that Drew and I both like to ask everybody, but I'm going to ask it a little different than we normally do. I'm going to ask you if any advice you would give to people coming into the business, what advice that would be. But then I'm going to ask you, what would Carl Palmer advice be? Would it be different?
Well, I could probably answer both of those things. Yes. So my advice coming into the business, so much advice, but as I touched on at the start of the show, personality is everything. Attitude is everything. If you get on with people, if you're a nice person, if you're willing to work hard, and every time you turn up to a rehearsal, be there on time, or better still, be there early.
Right.
That's gonna go a lot further than if you are the best player in the world. If you're the most talented musician in the world, that doesn't count for much. I know people who absolutely have got fired from situations where they're definitely the best musician. But it doesn't matter. I mean, you're there to do a job, and if you can do that job, it doesn't matter how talented you are. It's a case of your attitude and how you get on with other people. I think Carl's answer would probably be completely different from mine, and he would take it from a different point of view. Now, Carl is he is first and foremostly a businessman, and one of the reasons why Emerson, Lake and Palmer was so successful, well, you had three very strong elements in Emerson, Lake and Palmer. You had Greg Lake, the great voice and the great songwriter. He wrote some amazing songs. Oh, look, thumbs up. You had Keith Emerson, the incredible virtuoso and showman, and you had Carl Palmer. And not to take away from his drumming skills, because he obviously is and was a great drummer, but he was the businessman. And he's the reason they kept all their publishing. He's the reason that when they went off on tour, they found the best hotel deals for the entire entourage. And, they started, it was back in the 70s when venues would make you rent dressing room furniture to use for the night. So Carl said, forget that, we're not doing that. We're buying our own furniture at the start of the tour, and we're taking it into every dressing room we go to. So Carl is was and is business orientated.
Mhm.
So yeah, I think Carl's answer would be, make sure you keep all your own publishing, make sure you you retain your own rights, and all of that stuff. Sound business advice. Yeah.
And that's very wise. I think I know Drew and I have talked to many musicians where that wasn't the case, where they actually some
Yeah.
of the older musicians feel bitter because they were taken advantage of back in the day.
Completely.
And young musicians today need to know that the music isn't just enough. I mean, it's got to be there, but the business side of it, if you're going to have lasting power with that, you have to do exactly what you were just saying Carl did. Exactly right.
Exactly. Yeah. And Carl, Carl tours now and works now because he wants to.
Right.
I mean, he doesn't have to work another day in his life. He could live very comfortably off of ELP royalties and other investments that he made because of ELP. So, yeah.
And he's earned the right to do that because of the way
Sure.
that he handled things. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah.
I loved Paul's answer to that question, his answer, not for what Carl was, but just due to the fact of, when you're good at something, you want to talk about yourself consistently, and your ego gets out of control. And so that changes your demeanor and your personality, right?
Correct.
If you're good at something, you can talk about yourself, but if you're great at something, other people talk about you. And it's one of those things to where if you are going to demean other people, you stop learning because you think you know everything. If you know everything, those are not the people that want to network around you. And so, people like Paul probably network in such great other mindsets. And listen, if there's 5 people in the room that are successful, there's going to be a 6th. If there's 5 rich people in the room, there's going to be a 6th. If you got 5 idiots in the room, you're going to have a circus. If you show me your friends, I'll show you your future.
True stories.
And I didn't crumb up with that, by the way. I in my personal development world, I took it for somebody else, but it just makes so much sense.
Right.
That it's nice to be important, but it's more important to be nice, and that's how you learn or you gain that relationship or build those relationships with other people. So I thought that was really sound advice, Paul. I stand back. I will support that at 100%.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. Good job.
I think going talking about people with egos. I think very often people with egos, that ego doesn't come from the fact that they think or know they're great. I think it comes from insecurity.
Of course it does.
The
painting
most
a picture of gaslighting. They're trying to paint a picture in front of you. And listen, people when they come up to you and they tell you how awesome they are, those are the ones that they're so awesome. They'll be the first ones to tell you how awesome they are. Right? Yeah. Kind of a big deal. You know what I mean? Those people those are the red flags when you start seeing and hearing things like that. Run.
Yeah, exactly.
I get it. You're 100% right.
Some I've been lucky enough to come across some incredibly, Mozart level talent in my life. I can think of a couple people who I know, and they are both the most humble people you could ever meet, and there's just no ego there at all. It's just they're into playing with other musicians, sharing music. They're just then there's zero ego there at all. I find that the more genuine talent somebody has, usually the less ego they have.
I agree.
I totally agree with
authenticity.
I think that's why we like to travel. Obviously, to the NAMM show every year we go, and there you're seeing literally thousands of musicians there of all playing levels, all kinds of personalities. But the one common denominator, we're all part of an industry, and we're all part of a musical family. And for the most part, you find exactly what you were talking about. Most everybody there is very kind and very nice, and they just want to get to know you and learn from each other. So the advice that you give ties in with the way I think the majority of people in this business believe.
Yeah,
It's true.
yeah, for sure. Yeah. Well, I think certainly anybody who's got to be at the NAMM show and is in those surroundings, then you don't get that there by being an idiot.
That's exactly right. Exactly
Yeah.
right. Well, Drew's asking me if you're going to be at the NAMM show, and I know we talked earlier in the week that
Yeah.
you're not going to be there, unfortunately.
Unfortunately, not. No. Yeah,
But
no,
members
I
of your
used to.
band might be there. You mentioned possibly.
That's right. Yeah. So Mike and Leah, who are in my Nosferatu band, again, two great musicians and two lovely, lovely people. They go above and beyond the call of duty on my tours. So yeah, they're going to go a long way because of the talent, but a large portion because of their personality. Yeah. Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, maybe we'll try to catch up with them in a few weeks when we're out there.
Yeah. Yeah. Great.
I'm gonna, if I'm putting you on the spot, you can absolutely say, okay, edit this out. Okay. But I'm going to put you on the spot. We're doing a holiday mashup party of some of our podcasts, and we're going to be doing at our music store, Piano Trends Music. Yeah. And we're going to be doing a lot of recording ahead of time, and then we're going to be putting it out a week from Saturday on Make Music Winter Day. And we're asking people to play us maybe one Christmas song, even instrumentally, and we're just going to insert that, and would love to have you be part of our holiday party.
Okay.
Yeah.
I don't know any Christmas songs, but I might be able to improvise something.
Improvise is the best thing. Because in improvising, there are no wrong notes. That's what I hear.
I could be about to prove that theory wrong. Okay, let's give it a go.
Okay, we'll give it a go.
I'm going to do another take of this. Would that be long enough?
That will definitely be long. That's wonderful.
Okay.
Thank you. You are a gentleman in the sky.
Well, I'll do it. Let me do a proper version of it.
You got.
I'll try and do it. Yeah, edit it in. So
that would be great.
there you go.
Fantastic.
That's awesome.
That is awesome. Thank you, Paul, for doing that. We appreciate that. It's wonderful.
Yeah.
If you were to tell anybody one thing, whether it's in the music business or not, what would you want everybody out there that would be listening, what would you want to tell them? What is the one thing Paul Bielatowicz would want to send a message out?
Oh, I'm.
You like the way I keep putting you on the spot like this?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, the one big thing close to my heart is that I'm a real animal advocate, and I mean, one thing that I realized a few years ago, probably about 10 years ago, actually, when I got my first cat, is that. Peter calls it speciesism, and I think I was guilty of that. I viewed some animals as more valuable than others, and I just since getting a cat, it changed my changed my world. And you know, I'm now vegan and just value all animals and the lives of others. And I find it upsetting that us as humans, we view animals, specifically certain animals, as commodities to be profited from, and you know, basically to be put into factories, and for our very often for our profit. And I think that's what's wrong with the world. So yeah, that's a big thing on my heart, is just treating all animals, including humans, as equal.
Yeah, exactly.
I love it. That's life is life. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
Doesn't matter. It could be the ant that you step on.
That's right.
Oh yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Life is life.
And can you imagine what the world would be like if we could get everybody to think that way too, right?
I know, yeah.
Unfortunately, I don't think that'll ever happen.
Well, we
I
can
think
only
it is-
control our own little corner.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah. I think we're heading in the right direction. You know, I have hope for humanity. If you go back 100 years ago, there was nowhere near there was no such thing as a vegetarian. There was nowhere near the animal activists and animal rights organizations. So I think we're moving in the right direction.
You bet.
Yeah. I mean, I'm always I only said that, and I would only mention that because you put me on the spot to say something.
Right.
But I'm always
that's perfect.
but I'm always very I'm always very careful, because I think people feel judged and feel uncomfortable,
of course,
talking about you know, eating meat, animal rights, that sort of thing.
Right.
Well, you know, there's a lot of people, Paul, that they don't want to have a politic conversation. They don't want to have a religious conversation. They don't want to have that conversation. I mean, so to each his own, as long as you're not hurting anybody else doing what you're doing. And that's my rule of thumb. As long as you're not hurting anybody else doing what you're doing, you be you, live life. You only visit on the Blueberry. So get the best and the much experience as you can out of it. And unfortunately, you know, you have to. That's why it's the yin and the yang. You got to take the bad with the good and the good with the bad, because there is no balance without it.
No, all you can do is try to leave this world and this place a little better than what it was when you got
That's
here.
right. Hopefully you leave a legacy of who you are, and then that carries forward to the next group of people. You know,
exactly. Yeah,
that's awesome. Yeah. I'm with you on that, man. I love animals.
Yeah.
Listen, I'm not vegan. I'm Italian from Chicago. There is no. That's got to be, you know, on my plate. But
you can live on pasta alone.
Yeah,
though.
like I'll go out of my way to help an animal if need be. You know, but if you know, I got to eat too, right? So,
well, in fact, one of our podcast shows is all about pets and about animals.
Yes,
right.
Yeah.
Last Thursday of every month.
Yep.
And this woman fosters animals. Her house, she has, I don't know, like 5 cats, 3 ferrets, 2 rats, bunch of dogs. She's got this zoo going on in her house, and she always looks stressed out when I talk to her. I'm like, you know, just calm down. It's going to be okay. We're going to have a podcast. It's going to help you put out there for the foster care and hopefully get some adoptions going.
And we've been doing that with that show. It's helped spread the word.
Oh yeah,
and
she's getting really good at the podcasting too. So I think she enjoys it just the same. So
no animal should go unloved. That's for sure. Paul, thank you for being with us today. This has been a blast. Hopefully we can do this again soon sometime.
This is fantastic.
And if you guys do tour around the Chicago area, definitely let's get together. You guys come in, we'll show you the studio, and we'll do a live broadcast here. That'd be wonderful.
Sounds great. Sounds great. Thanks so much, Tim.
All right. Thank you, Paul. All right, everybody out there, you make sure you smile, be kind, and keep on keeping on. We'll see you the next time on Around the Piano.